like new cars don't carry the same persona as those of the past. And while old neighborhoods may have new condos going up, that's not why people move there. They're moving there for the bricks, the metal, the stories, and the people that have shaped them from the beginning. This is called history, and little by little we're losing it, along with the old iron that was parked along its streets.
Right now we're in Oakland. Now if I go out and I say, I'm going to Oakland, people are automatically going to think, you better watch yourself, it's a tough area, be careful where you go, be careful where you park, be careful who you talk to. The same thing happens if I tell people I'm from Brooklyn. Everybody immediately gets an image of what I might be like. As opposed to say if I said, oh, I'm from Akron, Ohio, they'd be like, oh, that's nice. Because nothing bad happens in Akron. But when you throw out the names of areas that are just inherently tough, people get an image of what you're like. This car reflects that. It doesn't matter, say you're from Akron. You get in this car, and then all of a sudden your persona, this persona in here, completely changes. People look at you in a different way. You could be 4'9" and 105 pounds. But in this car, you're 6'4", 260. You're a double extra large immediately, and that's the coolest part.
I'm originally from Detroit, so Oakland's kind of like the Detroit of the West. I basically grew up in my dad's body shop. You know, when I could walk, I was at the shop, and when I could sweep floors, I was sweeping floors, and when I could sand cars, I was sanding cars. I painted my first car when I was like 12. You know, Pops taught me everything.
When the Dodge Dart was introduced, it wasn't really introduced as a performance car. It was introduced as a car that your grandmother would buy, or your aunt would buy, or a school teacher would buy. They came with slant sixes, they came with 318s, they came with 340s and 360s. And at first, they were never really thought of as anything more than a modern Hyundai Elantra. Basic transportation, good price, halfway decent gas mileage, and a few modern amenities that would make you go, yeah, I could drive that every day. Some guys in the Mopar world will still look down on a Dart, but the fact of the matter is, the Dodge Dart is one of the best kept secrets out there. The cool thing about an A-body Mopar is that they're such a raw platform to do anything with. Anything from building it into a race car, a drag car, a road course car. You could do anything with these cars because they're very, very simple.
You know, versus a B-body, they're smaller, they're a little more nimble, they're a little more like today's car size, and I think they're underappreciated, frankly. It's definitely not full pro touring. I mean, it's got Hotchkiss suspension on it, it's got Wilwood brakes, but you know, it's not super high-end stuff. It's something that your average dude could go out and buy and bolt to his car, and you know, it just makes it handle just that little bit better and be a little safer.
When Jeff, the owner of Alloy, decided to build this, he didn't want to go too crazy, right? He wanted to keep it fairly traditional.
We kept it really simple. It's got small block 360. It's got some go fast parts on it. We got the J heads on it. Edelbrock top end, you know, Edelbrock manifold, Edelbrock carburetor. It's got a lumpy comp cam. It sounds the part, you know, but it's not too obnoxious. You know, did a custom stainless exhaust. You know, trans is just a 727 and just indestructible trans.
It's got an 8 3/4 rear with 355 gears. The 360 small block is just basically warmed over, right? It's got an RV cam, it's got a set of heads, an intake, carb, nothing crazy. I would say max, maybe 300, 325 horsepower at the crank. It motivates this car along quite well.
the general look of it, I wanted it to just be mean and nasty. And, you know, I mean, yeah, it's got drag slicks on the back, but that's as much for the look as it is for performance.
From an interior perspective, the car is fairly stock, right? We have kind of little nuances that set it apart. The console is stock, and it's actually a very nice piece, but what Jeff did was just, he painted it. He did a nice kind of black and silver theme, and it goes along with the murdered out look. He replaced the seat covers with new ones from year one, and they look good. They're vintage style, they're comfortable. He had the seats restuffed. This would be a deluxe interior, by the way, as you can tell by the padding on the doors. Now, if you look at the tops of the doors, like right here, that's metal. Dodge didn't even try to finish it back then. They just said, screw it, we're gonna just pad the lower part with basically some cardboard and some vinyl, and just leave the upper part metal and we'll paint it and nobody's gonna know the difference.
You know, as far as where I think the hobby is going, it's more things that are, you know, timeless. You know, like this car will look as cool as it does now 15, 20 years down the road. I mean, no one will be like, hey, that car was probably built in, you know, 2013. They're gonna be like, that's just a cool car.
Come out of the suburbs and you come into the inner city and you come into areas like Oakland or Brooklyn or Chicago or Queens or anything like that, man, the flavor of the entire area just changes, right? It's tough being in the city. It's tough being in an urban area and going through the daily grind here. You know, and I'm not saying anything that people don't know. If you've ever lived in an area like this, you get it. It's not the easiest place to be. You've got some grit, you've got some dirt, but you've got personalities out here that are fantastic. And the cool part is, a car like this reflects that. It reflects the personality of the neighborhood. I love the fact that I could drive this through Oakland, and everybody on the street is like, yo, that's badass. People come up and they want to talk to you and they want to know about it, and they want to touch it and they want to feel it. In a Dart that's especially all murdered out like this with attitude, man, you could roll through any part of any city and you could feel like $1 million, and everybody's gonna look at you and go, that's the right car. That is the right car for where you are right now. I like that. My grandfather had one, my aunt had one, and I want one. A lot of people don't know the value of these cars, right? They don't know that old Mustangs and Mopars and Chevys that are, you know, a lot of them are worth a lot of money. You know, here in this neighborhood, they're not collector cars. They're just old cars. They haven't been bit by that bug where they think everything is worth $1 billion and everything has to be super paint job and the best parts. They're still transportation. They still get you from point A to point B, and they're still cool, man. The sound of an old school V8 with a set of pipes on it still makes the hairs on the back of their neck stand up. And that's why I love areas like this.
I mean, I guess it just gets to that kind of like everyman feeling. Like, I mean, this is really something that like some dude in his garage in West Oakland, and he could totally pull this off. You know, and I guess in some ways that's kind of the mentality of places like Detroit or Brooklyn or Oakland. You know, it's like, I can do this myself and I can do it better than something that costs mega dollars.
With age comes knowledge. With knowledge comes wisdom, and with wisdom comes the realization that in most cases the opinions of others don't mean squat. When you modify a car from its original form, you're grafting into it an identity that you want to be known by every time you drive it. It's not an easy thing, this customizing, but if done correctly, it can let people know exactly who you are and where you came from before you ever speak a single word.
Play with me, you play with fire, 'cause I should come with a warning sign. Oh baby, I'm no angel. I didn't wanna be daddy's girl. I played the part for too long. I never wanted to be that way. I just wanna have fun. Who's a bad